Good day and welcome to the American Medical Association Conference, an overview of the CPT code set today. Today's conference is being recorded. If you would like to ask a question, simply type your question in the Ask a Question box and click Send. If any participant has difficulty hearing the question, please submit your question via the same tool. And now I'd like to introduce Mr. Dean Parisi, Head of International Business for the AMA.
Thank you, Molly, for that introduction, and welcome, everybody. Good afternoon and good evening, wherever you may find yourself around the globe. On behalf of the American Medical Association, again, thank you for joining today's webinar regarding CPT current procedural terminology. My name is Dean Parisi. As Molly said, I am the Director of International Business Development at the American Medical Association and responsible for the CPT International Strategy outside of the United States. I'm delighted to have with me today Leslie Prelowitz. Leslie Prelowitz is the Director of CPT Content Management and Develop. Leslie has recently joined the American Medical Association and our Health Solutions Group in November of 2018 and has a rich 20 years of experience in the healthcare space. In terms of the topics for today and today's agenda, we'll be speaking and talking about what is current procedural terminology, the history and purpose of the CPT editorial panel. We'll talk about the different components of CPT. We'll also explain the different category codes, category 1, 2, and 3, as well as the PLA. We'll also talk about some of the auxiliary components. Second, we'll talk about the different uses for CPT. Third, in terms of how to learn more. And then finally, at the end, there'll be a question and answer session. And again, at this point, I'd like to pass the baton to my colleague, Leslie Prelowitz, who will take you through the majority of today's presentation.
Thank you, Dean, and welcome everyone. So great to have you on the lines today. As Dean indicated, I'll take you through a tour of the CPT, or current procedural terminology. One of the items to remember is that CPT is truly the language of medicine today and the code to its future. It is a listing of descriptive terms and codes for reporting medical, surgical, and diagnostic services and procedures performed by physicians and other qualified healthcare professionals. And it really achieves this solution through addressing three different pillars of healthcare delivery, which I would say are common across the globe: addressing quality of care through standardization, interoperability, and looking at quality of care and outcomes; cost of care, to look at efficiencies and driving cost efficiencies; as well as access to care with standardized, modernized health solutions to improve care and access across the entire healthcare system and creating value across the system. The CPT has a 50-year proud history, legacy, and pedigree of evolving with healthcare and evolving healthcare. From our start in 1966, we've evolved over the past 50 years, becoming a national standard in 2000. Also with our review process and panel process that has changed to be an open process and available to the public, so there is a transparent process in the way codes are created, and an evolution in the codes themselves, including brand new categories such as our proprietary lab analyses in 2016. Now the code set that we have currently today, which is around 10,000 codes, is actually maintained and managed by a number of individuals, but central to all of them is our CPT editorial panel. This is a group of 17 physicians who are appointed by the American Medical Association, and they have the sole authority to create, revise, and update the codes and descriptions. What you will see on this slide is evidence of the science and the rigor and the methodology with which these codes are created. And those 17 members don't act alone, but they actually have a surrounding cast of physicians, payers, industries, government and private payers, as well as special work groups and non-healthcare professionals to help make sure that we have a robust representation of all of the different areas of healthcare. Those groups meet 3 times a year. The few you see here are supported by additional thousands of volunteers, including our CPT Advisory Panel, which is a group of over 200 specialists from all the categories of the House of Medicine. And they all bring their clinical expertise together 3 times per year to maintain and update this particular code set. So now that we have a little understanding of what CPT is, its evolution, and some of the key decision-making bodies, we'll take a little deeper look at some of the key CPT components. One of the main things to remember is that CPT codes do support interoperability. So while CPT is looking at procedures, there are also diagnosis codes, such as with ICD-10, and CPT coding does work with ICD-10, be it AM or CM here in the United States, as well as other diagnostic systems. CPT coding also maps to SNOMED. In the United States, we also have CPT coding that complements what we call our Level 2 codes that are used with one of our national public payers to present a full range of resources used to provide care for patients, such as ambulance services, prosthetics, orthotics, and drugs. So it's designed to work in a broader coding ecosystem. The CPT is more than simply a set of codes. The structure includes components that serve to promote their consistent, accurate representation and application in practice. Some of the key components of CPT are listed on this slide. So first I'll start by talking about the descriptors. On the far right, we have a variety of descriptors for multiple purposes. Our short, medium, and long descriptors, they will officially define the codes, and they're often used in electronic health record and EMR systems to display code information. Clinician descriptors are designed for efficient utilization at the point of care. And then consumer descriptors are written for your non-clinical audience. They may be used in patient-facing portals and systems. And the benefit of the CPT is that no matter what descriptor you're using, they are all tying back to a specific CPT code. So no translation is necessary between the descriptor codes. We also have modifiers to note when care needs to vary from standards, and guidelines and instructions for uniform code usage. Now the CPT also includes a rational approach to looking at relative weighted value of physician services. And that sounds like a lot of words, but it's important to remember that this is where there is a group of physicians and they work on what's called our RVS, or Relative Value Scale, Update Committee, or the RUC Committee. And their purpose is to perform analyses and examinations to give a uniform, unbiased methodology to understand the resources required to provide a service. So for all of the CPT codes in our main code set, which we'll get to shortly, there is a group of physicians that has gone through to understand what are the supplies, the resources, the physician time that are required to perform that particular service. This is key when you're looking to quantify the resources required to service a population or what's been performed within a healthcare system. And this slide gives you an overview and a little bit about the methodology. But that's one of the key benefits. And this, again, this is physician-led and it's evidence-based. So when you look at these relative values, it's very useful for those types of unbiased studies. Now as we go through CPT terminology, there are 2 special distinctions that you need to be aware of. Within the CPT, we talk about 2 types of clinical providers. One is a physician or another qualified healthcare professional, with the definition listed here, and clinical staff. The reason these are important is because with some CPT codes, we make distinctions in those codes based on who is providing the care. And that distinction can be very helpful, again, when you're looking at physician resource requirements or other clinician care requirements. The CPT allows you also to track the activity of these 2 groups. Our CPT code categories serve to strengthen our access to care. These robust categories work through development of multiple categories, and they all work in concert to span the ever-increasing language of medicine. So the Category 1 codes at the top, this is our most extensive section. These are for procedures and services that are consistent with contemporary practice. They're clinically recognized, generally accepted. When I discuss that relativity and relative value, these are the codes to which those are applied. And that's approximately 9,500 codes. Category 2 seeks to address the quality of care with tracking codes to measure key outcomes. So in terms of quality assessment, performance assessment, those are the codes to be used. Category 3 increases access to care through identifying emerging technology and procedures. And then proprietary labs also increase access to care specifically in the rapidly growing area of laboratory and genomic testing. Now we'll talk a little bit about some finer points of the CPT code set. So while the code categories serve to strengthen access to care, the code structures themselves drive efficiency in identifying the service provided and accuracy in selecting specifics that reflect work performed relative to the type of procedure. So in this example, we may have 3 different types of codes. So say code 10140, an incision and drainage of a hematoma, seroma, or fluid collection, very basic and straightforward. However, if you're a cardiovascular surgeon and you're performing a coronary artery bypass graft this morning, one of the key aspects that defines the work you do is how many venous grafts you'll be using. And the code set assigns for that in a family. So you can see the differentiator would be, is it a single graft, is it 2 grafts, is it 3 grafts? And they're put forth such that someone who's coding for that particular procedure can quickly identify what represents the work they've done. In other cases, such as dermatological or general surgery, you may have codes where there are multiple smaller procedures that are performed. And you may use something like an add-on code to the right. So with removal of skin tags, the issue there is how many lesions or how many tags are you working on. And the code set's designed for rapid and efficient use of those as well. Now a key benefit of the CPT is not only that it represents the most advanced medical procedures and services, including augmented intelligence and digital medicine, but it also delivers an extensive set of guidelines and instructions on how to use those codes at multiple levels, and they're structured to provide in-the-moment assistance. So for example, at the overall CPT level, there may be guidelines and instructions having to do with terminology formats, or the requirements for when a new code is desired by a particular group. Within a particular section, say the section of surgery, there may be guidelines around reporting follow-up care or supplying particular materials to go along with the surgical service. In a subsection, say in the cardiovascular system, the guidelines may go through guidance of arterial and venous anatomy or something that is specific to that particular system. And then one level down, even within a code or a code group, say within cardiovascular system, if you're looking at aortic valve procedures, there may be guidelines on use of an open arterial versus a cardiac approach. And if those guidelines, in addition to those, we also have the CPT Assistant. Now the CPT Assistant is an additional source for official CPT guidance. Over 300 issues have been issued since its inception in 1990. And this provides detailed information and articles on new codes, specific coding questions, deeper coding questions. Over 90% of the CPT codes in the current CPT code book have been written up in CPT Assistant with additional guidelines and information. All of the content in that assistant is vetted by the CPT Assistant editorial board. That is a group of physicians, so it's written by physicians for physicians. And that content is delivered either in a print or digital subscription, or if you're using the CPT through an encoder, oftentimes that content is included in encoders as well. And that is distributed on a monthly basis. Now the CPT is a well-constructed and advanced code set, and it accommodates a wide variety of complexity in medicine. One of the ways that we do this is through the use of modifiers. So modifiers will help you to enable you to continue to use the CPT to appropriately describe the care you give your patients, even when that care needs to vary from standard patterns. Now here I've given you a small list of the broad variety of modifiers that are available. These are some of the most common ones. And again, It's designed for you to use those codes with a modifier when they apply so that you understand when there's been a variation of care, but you still get the benefits of the standard nomenclature of the CPT. And a full set of modifiers is provided in all transmittal modes of the CPT, whether or not you get it in a hard copy or a book. They're also in data files and encoder systems. So now we'll walk into a little bit more detail on the CPT code categories themselves. Category 1, 2, 3, and the PLAs. For Category 1 codes are our most extensive set of codes. They're oftentimes about 80% of the codes in the book. And these are where we have our most stringent evidence and validation criteria. And that relativity that we discussed earlier, the unbiased view of the resources required to provide the service, these are the codes that have that relative value assigned. The codes are generally ordered sequentially with the exception of evaluation and management, and that is because that group of codes is one of the most used codes among physicians in reporting a portion of their services. So going through and taking a look at each one of these codes, the evaluation and management section again is one of the most widely used categories of care, and it's designed to give a variety of care types and settings, such as looking at evaluations or visits in offices, in hospitals, in long-term care settings, in outpatient facilities, ambulatory surgery facilities, critical care are all here. And we see a number of innovations coming through in this area as new care models are defined. So with remote monitoring, internet, and e-visits, those codes are starting to come through in evaluation and management. And it's important to note that innovation doesn't always relate to a new care model. Sometimes it can be innovation for efficiency. So in this example, our evaluation and management office visit codes will be undergoing a significant revision in 2021. And that is a small set used by every physician. The purpose of this innovation is actually to reduce physician burden in reporting. So innovation takes many forms in CPT. The anesthesia section is arranged by body area, and it also has special procedures for obstetrics and certain other burns and certain other category types. One of the benefits of anesthesia is that we see that these codes also incorporate related services. So we know that when anesthesia is delivered, it's not simply the delivery of the anesthesia. It's all the monitoring, the telemetry that needs to go around it, the assessment of the patient. All of that is included in a code. And that's, again, designed to reduce the reporting burden. Because as a physician, they don't have to sit down and figure out 5 or 6 codes for each component. They choose one. And the workload that is needed for all of those other components is already built into that code. That same kind of comprehensive view is also included in our surgery codes. This is our largest section. There are 16 subsections that cover every body system head to toe. And again, they incorporate related services around surgery. So it may be preoperative, postoperative time, monitoring in the PACU, creation of notes. So it's not just the surgery, it's all of the services that surround it, again, to make it much easier and more efficient to apply codes. Radiology codes are organized by imaging modality. So your X-ray, CT, MRI are all listed here. And there are also diagnostic and therapeutic procedures. So for therapeutic procedures, you may have your nuclear medicine codes, your radiation oncology codes, and all that's required to provide those services are rolled into radiology. In some cases, radiology are also paired with surgical codes when there is radiological guidance that's included in the procedure. So it comes in many forms. Pathology and laboratory is mostly what is seen in many EMR and EHR systems, but this is where significant innovations and advancements have happened with changes and advancements in medicine, genomics, multi-analyte assays, molecular pathology. This is a set that has had more new sections added in the last decade than any other group in CPT. The medicine section provides services for a variety of providers, including surgical and non-surgical, but it will also include testing, specialty services, assessment services, services that can be used by physical therapists, podiatrists, and others in the healthcare ecosystem. So it's a well-rounded, robust code. Right. So we'll go ahead and talk about Category 2. So Category 2 codes are really designed to support the quality of care. These are performance measurement codes. They're designed to be focused on areas of interest in caring for a national population, and they're looking at the process steps involved in outcomes. So these codes will have a national focus. They're generally evidence-based, and they're designed to address clinical conditions where there's high prevalence, high risk, and high cost in a particular population. Now those reviews, again, these codes are reviewed similar to our Category 1. We do have a panel that reviews them. They are made up of physicians and folks from our Healthcare Payment Advisory Committee, or HCPAC as we call them, and that is many of our ancillary services and allied providers are listed here. So an example of a Category 2 code, perhaps if you're looking to assess and monitor quality of care in a population, you want to make sure that certain steps are followed for community-acquired bacterial pneumonia. And that may consist of making sure that with a patient comorbid conditions have been assessed. You've recorded vital signs. You've recorded mental status and hydration status, among other things. And these are a list of codes, again, that are looking at conditions that tend to be prevalent in communities where we want to improve the quality of care. So if performance measurement and quality measurement is part of your goal with CPT, the CPT helps you out there as well with a set of performance measurement codes that are already built in and validated. Category 3 codes bring innovation. This is a group of codes that are designed to capture and record activity for new and emerging technology, procedures, and services, and new service paradigms. This is one of our fastest growing segments and is changing so rapidly that with many of the areas of CPT we update codes once per year. These actually get updated twice per year because they're going that quickly. They are designed to be temporary codes, and this is where for new technologies and new items that come in, the primary purpose is for data collection, but also to give access to those codes in the market. Many of them, as they mature, and they tend to have a 5-year limit, as they mature, many of them will convert to that standard evidence-based validated Category 1 status. So if you're looking to see what might be coming up in the coming years with the CPT code set in terms of those Category 1 codes at the top, many of these will migrate to that status over time. Interesting to note in terms of the rapid expansion, these codes have evolved so quickly. By way of example, if you looked at the codes that were available in the set in 2011 versus what you see today, first you would see that the code volumes have more than doubled, and only about 20% of the codes that were in the set in 2011 are still there today, which is why it's very important that this is a very dynamic and evolving, rapidly evolving code set, and this is one of the areas where you see some of the fastest movement. Proprietary laboratory analysis also bring innovation, but specifically to the laboratory space. And again, these are code sets that are specific for labs or manufacturers that have custom algorithms, and they wish to uniquely identify their laboratory's test and usage in the space. The code criteria are fairly straightforward. Over 150 codes have been issued since this group was created in 2016, and it continues to advance at a very quick pace. So quick, in fact, that when we are updating codes, most of the codes are updated once a year. Category 3s are updated twice a year. PLAs, or proprietary lab analyses, are updated 3 times per year. They're coming in just that rapidly. So again, a lot of the new science that's coming through with a lot of these labs is captured in the CPT, and we move it to keep up with the pace of the new innovations. Now we're going to move, now that we've talked about what the code set is, who maintains it, and talked about some of the details, we'll go a little bit into who uses the CPT. And it's important to understand that the CPT is really used by an ecosystem within the healthcare area. So we have governments and hospitals, EHRs, regulators, everyone around in the circle that's listed here. And while they're all serving to drive, the CPT drives a number of key characteristics such as interoperability, standardization, improved outcomes. Each one of these benefits the segments differently. So for example, governments and associations may use the CPT for quality and outcome measures research, resource utilization, trying to understand physician workforce needs, population healthcare needs. For our clinicians, coders, and hospitals, those at the front lines in the care to patients, the CPT gives the benefit of a common, current, clinician-driven language of patient care. So no matter where that patient goes, if they change facilities, if they change physicians, it's easy for anyone who needs to provide care to that patient to use the CPT and rapidly understand the care that's been given to that patient with no need for translation. It also gives you a uniform coding methodology. So not only do your staffs and your physicians and clinicians are able to speak consistently, your systems can also speak consistently. So you have interoperability there as well. With many of your insurance companies, regulators, and other groups, the benefits of the CPT, it goes straight into your EHR systems and is available for interoperability there. Also for administrative management, processing of claims. Again, you have a common language and a uniform language that can be understood by both practitioners and by your machines and computers. And then for medical care review guidelines. As you work to optimize care for your populations, and you move in that area, there will be some times when you may want to understand what is the best care that should be provided in a specific situation and set up guidelines to review and make sure that that care is being provided. And the CPT facilitates that as well. And one of our main areas, obviously, that we wish to do here is make sure that we're committed to your success, regardless of where you are on the timeline of use of CPT, whether you're considering adoption or you're already using it. Just know that we have a number of different ways for you to be able to access those resources, and a few of them are listed here. So certainly on your phone these days with mobile technology, we have it. It doesn't have to be just at your desk. You can have it quickly at your hands with some of our quick ref tools. Certainly on your desk in our hard copy and digital products, and online with many of our supplemental activities, and then more. And Dean, if you're on the phone, if there's more you'd like to eliminate the audience to with this particular slide, I think that would be a great way, and then we can go to questions and answers.
Thank you, Leslie, and thank you again for that thorough overview of current procedural terminology.